One of the main reasons that real estate investors get into trouble is a lack of cash flow. Without cash coming in, the deal dies. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 ways how scaling up can help you improve your cash flow. So make sure you hit the subscribe button right now so you don't miss more videos about building wealth through multifamily real estate. And if you don't know me, I'm Seth Ferguson, a 12-year real estate veteran, host of a real estate TV show, host of a real estate investing podcast, and I'm also the author of the real estate book, Sell for More. So let's get right into it and talk about how scaling up can help you improve your cash flow. A lot of people enter the world of real estate investing purchasing a single-family home or a small plex property like a duplex, triplex, 5-plex, 6-plex. One of the disadvantages with buying a smaller property, especially in a hotter real estate market, is the poor cash flow. The price you're paying for the property versus the rental yield, the rent the property is giving off, is so constrained, it's so tight that it doesn't really leave any room for proper cash flow and reserves and actually paying you and putting money in your pocket. And sometimes you're actually buying the property at a loss. It's negatively geared, so you're basically paying money into the property to support the property every month, which is not a way to financial freedom. So let's go over 3 ways that scaling up can help you improve your cash flow. So number 1 is management. Like I mentioned before, if we're dealing with a single family home or a duplex, triplex, those smaller properties that a lot of people get started investing in when they first get into real estate investing, the management fees are quite high. So if, let's say we're talking about a duplex, you can bank on paying between 10 and 12% of your gross rents to have somebody manage that property. And keep in mind that this person is not just managing your property when you're paying them 10 to 12%, they're actually managing a larger portfolio. So they're only going to be on site looking at your property, speaking with the tenants for a small fraction of the time, because chances are they're working with 50 to 100 other properties. But when we scale up in size and we go into much larger multifamily properties, because this is a multifamily real estate channel, our management fees drop to roughly 3 to 4%. This is a huge difference. Again, we talk about economies of scale all the time. If I'm managing 100 units versus managing 3 units, the scale of the property works in your favor, works in my favor as the owner. It's far easier to manage 100 units when they're in the same spot, on the same piece of land, sometimes under the very same roof, rather than 3 units in a triplex. So just by the scale of the property, the economies of scale working in our favor, these lower management fees can really improve our cash flow. 10 to 12% of gross rents for a triplex, especially in a hot market where the yield is so tight, this can wipe out your cash flow and put you in negative gearing territory right off the bat. Number 2 is expense ratios. Let's just say expenses. Following the same vein as with number 1, the economies of scale, this definitely comes into play with our expenses and our expense ratios. Think about a single family home or a triplex or a 4-plex. We have lots of expenses like insurance, we have maintenance, repairs, taxes, you name it, rental items as well. I could keep going on building this list. If you work out the expense ratio, so the ratio between your rents and the expenses, it's going to be really high if we only have a small number of units. But if we scale up and we go much larger, the percentage the expenses take up in terms of our gross rents, the amount they eat out of it, it becomes much less. So again, for a 100 or 150 unit property, we expect our expenses to be in that 40 to 50% range, depending again on the vintage of the property, location, amenities offered, but usually speaking, we are in the 40s percentage in terms of how much expenses take up the gross rents. When we look at the expense ratios of a much larger property, let's say we're taking a look at the insurance policy. Yes, the insurance policy for 150 units is going to be much more expensive than a triplex, but when we look at it in terms of a ratio, how much per unit are we paying, the cost, the economies of scale bring that cost of insurance down per unit to a much more manageable level. Again, this will improve our cash flow because we're spreading out the cost of insurance over 100, 150 units rather than just 3 units. Same thing with maintenance and repairs. Having 100 units on the same property definitely brings down our cost of maintenance and maintaining those properties, doing those repairs. It makes such a huge impact because having one maintenance person on site fixing 4 units at the same time, maybe we had a plumbing issue, that is so much more cost efficient than having a plumber go to a triplex and fix 1 unit. Or let's say we have 3 single family homes in different areas of a city. Well, that maintenance person has to go to 3 different locations. That's going to cost a whole lot more rather than just having a full-time maintenance person on site who's able to fix anything that pops up. And that's another reason why the expense ratio is so much better with a larger multifamily property. We have full-time staff. You have a full-time leasing agent on site who's just looking after your property, making sure all the tenants are looked after, you're leasing up the vacant units. Same thing with maintenance. The maintenance person is on site. Think about it this way. If you have a maintenance person on site keeping tabs on everything that's going on, your property is going to be better run, better maintained, because you're going to be able to jump on potential issues a lot faster rather than counting on a tenant in a duplex, for example, giving you a call as a landlord and letting you know in the middle of the night that there's a plumbing issue and water is coming through the ceiling. Having an on-site maintenance person, these people are able to jump on an issue right away, and in the long run, you are going to save money because your expenses are going to be much lower in terms of maintaining the property. So I cannot emphasize enough, having that on-site staff, that full-time professional management really helps out. Let's talk about debt terms. Now, there's a couple of different ways we can approach debt as it relates to real estate investing. Well, first of all, if we're talking about smaller properties, single family homes, duplexes, triplexes, we're talking about residential financing versus commercial financing when it comes to these larger multifamily properties. Totally different ways of underwriting the financing, and I'll put a link right up here to the video I did talking about the differences of financing a residential property and a commercial property. But for today's video, we're talking about improving your cash flow. So let's talk about some of the financing items that actually help improve our cash flow as we scale up in size. Well, number one, we have the debt terms. Lenders love multifamily real estate. CBRE did a study looking at the past 2 recessions, and they found that multifamily was the most stable asset class in terms of commercial real estate. Lenders love lending on multifamily properties or apartment buildings because it is so stable, and they know that. So when we scale up in size, lenders actually give us a break in terms of our interest rates. Money is so cheap as you are scaling up because lenders like the stability of the asset. They know that they can come and take that asset off your hands if you fail to perform on that loan. Lenders will give you preferred rates. So when it comes to debt, lenders will give you a lower rate in exchange for that lower risk profile. And then we have interest-only payments. Interest-only payments don't really come about in the residential financing space because it's a totally different way of underwriting the lending. But in large commercial properties, especially multifamily, one of the great terms we can get is interest-only payments, especially for a period of time. What this does is really improve our cash flow as we're implementing our value-add plan with the property. So let's say we acquire a 200-unit apartment building, and the lender really likes the risk profile. We're able to get a lower interest rate because the lender likes the stability of the asset. But the lender also knows that we want to go in and improve the property. We want to improve the interior, do some exterior work, and increase the rents and fill up the property, change the marketing and the branding of that property. This is going to improve the property value, and I'll put a link right up here to a video I did about the value add process. Now, how does this relate to cash flow? Well, in the first couple years of acquiring a property, that's when cash flow is the tightest for us because we're spending money to improve the property. Sure, we end up with a higher dollar value once the value add plan is all finished and our business plan has come to fruition, but during that value add process, those first couple years, cash flow is tight because we are reinvesting that capital. The lender knows this and they want to help us out. So that's why they give us an interest-only option, sometimes for a couple years, could be 2 years, could be 3 years, could be 5 years. What this does is eliminates us paying down the mortgage. We only have to pay the interest portion of that mortgage payment. This frees up a whole lot of cash flow, and instead of having that monthly mortgage payment go towards paying down the mortgage, which is not where we make our money, we can then take that money and put it into improving the property. So by going after much larger properties, scaling up in size, we're able to take advantage of better debt terms, more stability for the lender, lower interest rates for us. So when we scale up in terms of size, number of units, we get to take advantage of better debt terms, the lender gets a more stable asset, and we get lower interest rates. When we scale up in terms of number of units and size of the property, we're able to take advantage of better debt terms. The lender gets a more stable asset, and we get to take advantage of lower interest rates. And we can also have the option of interest-only payments. So we are able to take the money that would be normally going towards paying down the mortgage, which doesn't make us more money, and we can instead invest that into improving the property, raising rents, increasing the property value, which will help us and our investors when we go to sell. So these are 3 ways you can improve your cash flow as you scale up in terms of size with your real estate properties: lower management fees, better expense ratios, and better debt terms. If you're interested in learning more about the properties I'm currently looking at, head on over to callseth.com and set up a free 20-minute phone call with me. And if you like this video, if you found this useful, leave a comment, let me know what you think, hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, happy investing.